export. Oh, sorry. So we're going to put some design elements on this page. We're going to export this to PDF. I'll show you how to do that so that you can email reports. And then you can export to PowerPoint as well too. So we'll go through that. And then finally, we'll publish to the Power BI online service and walk through the capabilities that we can have there as after we publish. And then if we have a little bit of time, we're going to try to get through the Python module. It's essentially installing some software on your local computers first before we start enabling that in the Power BI desktop. All right, so if everybody has loaded up their report, the first thing I want to do is start to create this as though it's essentially kind of a web page. And this thing might be freaking out on me a little bit, but let's see if I can't. There we go. All right. So the first thing I want to do is add a header. What we have here is a ribbon similar to all the Office products. I'm going to add a text box and type in, I think it's Northwoods University report. You can name it whatever you'd like, but I'm going to minimize the text space by dragging this over. I have some options here in terms of formatting that text. So I'm going to bold print, increase the font, and center that. All right, and then so for each of these items and visualizations here, all I did for the time being was add the shadow color. I can also put some border around that. So again, click on the visual, click on the format tab, and then scroll down, and you've got some items here that you can use to change some of the design properties there. So to keep it consistent, I'm going to apply that across the board. And I should probably put what this one is here. So I'm going to include teachers and move this down. So one thing you'll notice is that you can't necessarily go past this dotted line here. That's just so that you can kind of keep a consistent screen sizing when you publish this out to a web portal, essentially, or the online service. I'm going to add a background as well too. So to do that, click up top, and you got more options here. You can include buttons. These kind of give you some web design type functionality. So if you click on right arrow, this should give you the ability to click into the next tab. And you can change again, the shape, all the design pieces here. The action should be able to take you to page navigation and then I want to go to students next. So for the background, you can add an image. I'm going to add a just going to put like a grayish type background. So when you put the element on the page, it will be on top of everything. So obviously what you might see is this is covering all of that. And so how do we push this to the back? If you've worked with PowerPoint before, it's kind of a similar process. So if you click on the Format tab, you have a couple of options here to bring items forward. You can send it backwards. You can align this, all of the properties, so that they, let's say, you have a couple of visuals that you want lined up to the left or centered. You have those options here. So what I'm going to do first is send this to back. And now it should be the furthest most property. What also happens is if you click into this item, then this surfaces up so you can manipulate that. Otherwise, you'll get this effect here. Also, if you didn't see this, I'm going to click on just anywhere in the space and then format. And there's a button here called section. And what section does is it shows you the order of all of the elements on your page so that you can manipulate them here too. So just to show some drastic effect, I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to place it on top, or I can place it at each layer. One thing that's important also to understand about these are, as you can see, it's shape, but if you have multiple shapes on here, it's going to just say shape 1, shape 2, so on and so forth. So this it's best practice to label these with kind of a brief description of what it is. So I'm just going to type in background by double clicking on this item and then just labeling it. So this table, all right, so that's that section. Also wanted to see if I can add some specific icons. Let's see what. Sorry, I may not have that piece. You can put your logo, company logo here as an example. So again, when it comes to brand standards, if that exists in your organization, this is where you start applying that. Also, for these elements, you can change the background color for each of these visuals. So if you wanted to make it transparent because you like the background color and it contrasts well with all of these elements, you can do that as well by clicking on the element. Currently this has a background, but I can remove it. Or if I wanted to choose a different color for it, add some transparency, I can do that as well. This lock aspect ratio, essentially when screens change or the sizing of the window changes, it gives you the opportunity to, everything moves all at once to a smaller scale. And let's see if this is going to lie. Yeah, as you can see, all these start to shrink as your window sizes shrink. So something to consider. If I see this quite a bit with executive teams that have maybe tablets, and if you create this report and you don't set this sort of reactive design or something that kind of scales, they may find that part of this is cut off and they have to scroll. So just in terms of design practices, you want to always make it so that it's a little bit reactive and scales to multiple different screen sizes. All right, so any questions, thoughts, anything you'd like to see added to this page, or any examples you may have run into?
I have seen dashboards with like an animated element. I don't know if that's a thing that Power BI does. Kind of like shows data moving over time.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't particularly know how that part is applied.
Wouldn't you have to have dynamic data that's changing to have a dynamic changing report? Or
Well,
are you talking about like sliding through date data and showing changes over time that way?
Yeah, that could be one way. Like you just have like a bunch of historical data, then you could easily show like how the data just has changed.
Yeah, like in that bank accounts project, maybe that's a daily. There's a row of data for every day in April of whatever it was, 99, 2009. You might be able to show the deposit amount or number of account of the accounts on each day, but yeah, I don't know how to do it.
One thing that comes to mind in doing that is, so these buttons, you should be able to script them to some degree. So let's say, I'll take a look at that when we break here. I know that there's probably an easy way to do this, but the thought I had in mind was, if you click on this, the automated process of like tabbing through and changing to the next page kind of shows that visual on a more automatic type format. But again, I'll do a quick research on that. Any other thoughts? Or anything you'd like to see from a visual perspective?
Well, while you're on there, Dan, on that last thing, yeah, I think it was the view page.
Mhm.
Click on those different theme buttons and see what the effect is.
Yeah. So if I click on this, it does this for you.
Hmm.
Obviously, you need to have a couple of those elements on there to help change it. But let's say if I remove that, then it takes that gradient picture. So this is what the background would look like. It gives you examples on how to do that. So it's kind of a quicker way to apply some of those. That one puts the image in the background. And then you can also go through the theme gallery, which will give you some additional options from Power BI specifically.
Cool. Just like Excel, or a lot like
Mhm.
Excel. Yep.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
PowerPoint. Yep.
Yep. And then this kind of adjusts your items or the way that you're viewing these reports. So you can change that just as a kind of a working space. Some of the best practices as well too are limit the amount of visualizations you have on a page. Otherwise, it's going to take a while to load in web format. So one way to help with that, of course, is the way that we created these tabs. Try to keep it simple so that you can kind of tell a specific story or a chapter of a story, so on and so forth. There we go. So this view as just kind of gives you the opportunity to kind of see what a common user would see. This can be, I was trying to remember if this is tied directly to a your user accounts. So Active Directory is an example. And then this manage roles piece, this gets a little bit involved in terms of people accessing this report locally on your machine. So generally speaking, it would be similar to like sharing a Word or Excel file on your machine. This is essentially sharing the PBIX file and then letting them load that up in their machine. All right, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna keep this. And then additionally too is that templating gets applied to each of your tabs. So there's a level of consistency there. It's a quick and easy way of doing it, especially if this ties into your branding. All right. So next steps are to be able to export this. So the first thing we want to do is, after we save it, click on File and Export to PDF. And it should start generating these reports for you and then download it to your downloads folder. And then what you have here is, as you can see, it's kind of a screenshot of each of those reports. So from a PDF perspective, obviously these arrows aren't going to make any sense. So you can remove those as you're exporting. And then as that PDF, you can email this out. One thing I did want to take note of is the I was going to see if it showed me the, oh, there it is, the file size. So this one, with everything that we put on in 3 tabs, it's a fairly light file. So in terms of emailing this out or saving it somewhere, fortunately, it's not terribly large. I think once we do get, if we can get that interactive piece in there, obviously that's not going to take effect. So that's something to consider too, is how you're going to be distributing this out. All right, so back to the report. If you'll excuse me just 1 second, I just need to upload or load up a document here. 1 second. Then I have basically what I'm going through. I'll share that over to the training class library. All right, I was trying to see if I have the right information on exporting this to. Actually, somebody can give this a try and see if it is enabled on your machine. What I'm running into right now is I wanted to export this to PowerPoint, but I don't have the option to. So if you click on export, do you only see PDF there, or does anybody have PowerPoint listed?
All I saw was PDF.
Yeah, that's all I see too.
And yeah, and Power BI template. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I get. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to publish this first. And then after publishing, we should be able to enable the export to PowerPoint. I think there's just some libraries or some connectivity components that happen as you're publishing this. So let's do this, and then we'll take a break after we get this connected to our workspaces, and we can talk through that piece. So on your desktop under Home, there's a Publish button. It's going to ask you to save your most recent changes. And after that, it should ask you or have these items listed. My workspace, which is your own. If you are connected to any other workspaces, they would be listed here. What I'm going to do is just double check on.
Were we?
Sorry, I just wanted to add everybody.
No, I published it to my workspace and it
Okay.
said great success.
Mhm.
So if I go to that, what is the URL for the Power BI service that we're logged into?
Yep, it's app.powerbi.com.
Ah,
I'll put it in the chat as well. And then I'm going to try to add everybody.
woohoo.
So I'm doing this individually. As you can see, it's kind of a pain. So one of the best practices is to leverage the groups. The Microsoft groups model or the Active Directory or security groups model, so that it's easier to manage from that perspective, because if somebody leaves your organization or somebody shouldn't have access to this anymore, instead of having to do it here, you can do it in Active Directory, where as a result, anything that they previously have access to will no longer have access to this space or any other services. All right, so the options here are allow you to share this dashboard. So once you have access to it, then you can take on the responsibility of sharing it amongst your colleagues. This is another level of management. So sharing, all that means is being able to view those reports as well. If it, again, organization-wide public information, that's okay. If it's more private, you wouldn't want to do this. You want to maintain the management control here. This is where you kind of give them the access to work with your data and then add some visuals and tabbing to your report. So this kind of makes it a little bit more collaborative. And then the send email notification is it will email these users that they now have access to this. So let me get that. Has anybody had any trouble logging into this environment if you haven't already? I'm going to see if I can try this again. All right, for the time being, I'll get that fixed too. So I'm going to publish, save it. I'm going to go to this workspace, select that. It should start loading that file up. And essentially what it's doing is it's packaging everything up from the data to the visuals, to the reports and dashboards, and loading it into that workspace. After doing that, I should be able to then go to said workspace. And there is the Northwoods report.
We're still seeing your Power BI desktop view.
Nope, sorry about that.
Yep.
Let me. All right, can everybody see the Power BI online screen?
I see it.
Okay. So clicking on open projects gives a list of all of the reports associated with that workspace. And after I had published to that workspace in Northwoods, I click on that and my report loads up. And then here's the tabs pieces. And then click on next will take me to the next item there.
Pretty slick.
If you ever run into anything like this, there's some administrative things that working with the IT department or whomever owns Office 365 in your organization can start to enable some of those features there. This was the map that I had added in my report. So I'm gonna let everybody take a break here. I'm going to just do a quick look up on the animation piece. And then when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about the uploading to PowerPoint and some of the Python items. And then of course, if you have any questions, we can talk about that. So I would say at the half of the hour, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So back at 1/2 past the hour, regardless of your time zone, 30 minutes past the hour.
So in regard to animation, I'll go through the steps. I was able to get a component of that, and then I can at least show you a quick example of how to do it, or at least show you that we can do it, and then feel free to kind of dig into it a little bit further. All right, so back in Power BI Desktop, if we go through and select Get More Visuals and click on it again and type in animation. Oops. There's a couple of out-of-the-box items here that you can go and download. What I selected was this animated bar chart. And after you click through that and it downloads and applies, you'll see it listed in the in this section here below all the templated ones, or default ones, I should say. So click on that to add it to your screen. And I just dragged mine down here. And under name, so what I'm going to choose to try to animate here is the, because I only really have salary to kind of go off of in terms of numerical data. I'm going to do the faculty salary. So I chose last name under name, the value, I selected salary, and then the period of time, I went on the under term and selected term description. And what you may notice, it may like automatically do it for you as you kind of put these items in there. And then what should happen is it would look something like this. Is anybody having any trouble with that? I'm just going to try one more.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what action you were doing out in report view mode, you know what I mean, or consumer mode to make it do anything. That one that you just pulled up looks like it has a play button, though, which.
Yeah, let me, all right. Let's see if I can get the. It should, it doesn't necessarily loop through. So once you open up the report from like a view only mode, this will start to animate and then stop. You can, since this is kind of a, somebody had custom created this and uploaded it to share, what they came up with just a couple of properties. So you can slow down the animation. You can increase or decrease the bar sizing, and then the duration is so let's see if I make it pretty drastic. 200, it's going to start moving really slow.
No, the duration makes it move fast, a short duration.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah. And I suppose all of these are really well documented in a standard format, right?
Yeah. So if we go to,
I'm kidding. I would expect them to be tough to. You get what you pay for, kind of thing. You know, it's something that somebody posted and use at your own risk.
exactly. So as you can see, like some of these are like people start voting on them. And 2.5 stars for something probably doesn't do much other than just probably recreate one of these templates. And sometimes these are just sort of quick side projects for people to learn how to do this, post their customizations, and then probably iterate through another more advanced option. All right, I'm just going to do this, mess with this one here. I want to include this and salary. It's kind of the same thing, slightly different. Yeah, so this one has a play button, so it gives you that functionality. If you didn't notice, it kind of refreshes the page and it affects that one as well too. Clicking in, yeah, this one's better. Because if you click on format, it gives you a lot more options for that animation piece. All right, so I'm going to go back to the online version of, well, you know what? Let's publish this. And I'm going to save it. And I'm going to, what's kind of cool is you can take that same report and publish it into different workspaces you have access to. Obviously, it's kind of a pain to manage in multiple areas, but you do have the option to do that. What this is going to ask you is if you want to overwrite any data sets. So if you are working in this space, you're updating your data, or you're importing a newer version, this is where, or this is how you would overwrite that. Interesting. Oh, I'm using a private view mode for that. Okay, sorry, jumping back and forth. All right, so I'm going to click on replace and it's loading. And success. So I'm going to go back to my window. I'm going to refresh. So one thing that might happen is while you're working in this space, items may not look up to date. They may if you refresh your browser or if you log in for the first time. But if not, if you click on refresh, come on. Nope. Let's do this. There we go. So refreshing the browser will bring in the latest. If you're working, I'm sorry, if you're working specifically in the Power BI online service, this refresh button will take those changes and apply them. So there's your animation, and there's the changes that we have made. So in terms of exporting it to Power BI, I'm sorry, PowerPoint, it has to use the online service for that. So if I click on export, I've never gotten the analyze an Excel piece to really work, but they may have fixed that. But I'm going to start with PowerPoint and default value. There's some options here with current values, default value. So if you happen to change some of the content here, or you make it a little bit more interactive, it'll take a snippet of that as opposed to where you started. Additionally, you only have to export just the current page or all of it combined. If you had any hidden tabs, that should be enabled. So clicking on export, it's gonna create the file and then download it. It should be downloaded on your downloads folder once it completes. And while that's running, anybody have any issues with the animation piece, or at least getting to seeing your updates or changes?
I chose not to follow along, Dan, because just watching you do it was about all I
invigorating.
about all I could do. And I'm curious if folks want to, Paul, you had asked about this. I'm curious if you use that bank accounts CSV data from the Excel workbook that we talked about before. It has date data in it that would show, I would think would tend to an animation that would show change over time, maybe a little bit better than, I'm not even sure what I'm looking at as far as the animation in that. Oh, it's by term, right? As the terms change. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And yeah, that's that makes sense. Yeah. You drug that into the time period thing. So, but I may mess around with that bank accounts data and see if I can't get like the count of accounts and the amount of the initial deposits to shape shift over time. I don't know. Some animations are eye candy and some are really helpful to show the change over time. So anyway.
No worries. All right, so downloaded the file and opening it up, it gives you a default template. I believe it uses the Power BI theme. So because I chose the black background and kind of design elements, it looks kind of cohesive, but I would imagine that this front page applies a PowerPoint template to your report. So kind of clean version, modern looking version, so you don't necessarily have to change this, but of course you should be able to update these slides however you need to, include additional slides in this space, or you can extract these screens and then copy them into your existing PowerPoint. Things to note here, again, anything that is animated or visualized, they won't show correctly. So I think it's just kind of again, kind of like the PDF, it's a screenshot of your data. I don't believe you can exclude these visuals. So just in terms of, again, preparing your report for how you're going to share that content.
While you've got it open, Dan, is it looking like each slide is literally like a screen, like an image?
Mhm.
It's not individual images or anything. Each slide that you're getting is basically a JPEG expanded to the full size of a
Exactly.
slide. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So one option you can do here is if you take, let's say this item here, you can create an additional tab and copy and paste it and remove any of the items that you don't want to, or that you think might be broken, like the animation piece, this arrow. Because again, it's kind of just a screenshot turned into an image. So as a result, you're not necessarily duplicating your effort, you're just copying and pasting it. So that what will happen is you'll have this version and then you'll have your second version or the copy in a tab on your report, but as another screen here, and you can use that one instead. So it's kind of a neat tool. It's kind of a quick way to display this, but at the same time, can be a little bit cumbersome if you're, if you're trying to work with specific visuals. As you can see here too, you've got some scrolling items, but you can't scroll within that specific visual. So interactively speaking, or web specific, you can make these interactive for any reporting or exporting of PDFs or PowerPoint. You can't interact with them, so you want to make sure that it fits the screen properly. So this might be like one of those where if you're displaying that for, let's say, a meeting, obviously you have a link here that people can go to interact with it, but these are just snippets of data that you'll start to present and talk about or talk around in terms of your meetings and who your audience is going to be. So what I want to do is see if I can share this with everyone.
Had you already done that? Because I've got one.
I tried to do it in a different workspace.
I got undershared with me. I've got your report. students in courses dashboard at 10:01 a.m. and I'm in the Eastern time zone, so that would have been 50 minutes ago, you know?
Do you see the report listed there?
Yeah, when I clicked on shared with me in the service,
Okay.
it says students in courses, but it was shared 59 minutes ago, 48 minutes ago. Does that sound right? And if I bring it up,
Yep.
all paid Power BI features are yours for 60 days. Don't answer yet. You also get the Ronco Bassomatic. Okay, got it. And it's pulling it up and
It's probably going to be empty.
it's empty and it says XLSX.
Yep.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that wasn't showing up in the Power BI desktop, but I did share another workspace with you. It should be open projects. And if you refresh your browser, and then on the left-hand navigation, if you click on workspaces, you should see it listed under workspaces. If not, if you type in open projects, see if that works.
Worked for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, worked here.
All right. So open projects, the Northwoods one is the one I uploaded, but feel free to jump into any of those others that I previously worked through and created. Specifically, the human resources or HR sample. What's kind of cool about the Power BI component is you can download samples that you could work off of some of the compiled and packaged data that they have. And then you can just kind of see how it all works and have that as a starting point. So here's a fully compiled list. This slicer here, as we talked about, is your filtering component. So show me all the bad hires during for each of these regions. And then what you might notice about this screen, since it's so minimized and kind of compressed, the intent is that this is more of a mobile view, and it's just a quick snippet of data. So you do have the ability, again, to share this on mobile devices, whether it's a tablet or a phone. Some of the other added features here are this chat in Teams. If you're not familiar with Teams, if you're familiar with Slack or just kind of the instant messaging feature, that's what this is, Microsoft's version of it. It's a pretty robust tool, but in terms of the organizations seem to be adopting this pretty quickly. But clicking on it should allow you to let's do this. All right, so I'm going to share this specific report to Teams into that group. Sorry, a lot of clicking through here, but basically this can be treated as sort of either a collaborative effort, a meeting effort, but basically you can take that same report out of the Power BI service and use it within your Teams service. So that, yeah, you can chat with your other team members, you can talk through these items, you can collaborate by editing. So whomever has editing permissions can go and manipulate these areas. And since I'm the only one here, but you'll only see mine, but if there were multiple people here, you can see their cursor essentially highlighted and what areas they may be working out of. So it's kind of cool, the ability to, if you're in charge of this specific chart and somebody else is in charge of this one, you can do it that way. But of course, it starts to depend, it starts to interact fairly quickly once you start manipulating data that would affect these other visuals. So just another area or space that you can work out of. These are probably more intended for quick snippet changes as opposed to the more robust desktop and also in the Power BI specific area. But that capability is there. The subscribe, I believe, is you can enter in. So let's say that you want to manage this for your managers, directors, executive team, or anybody in your group or a specific person. You can subscribe them to this report. So any changes that you make, they'll get emailed based off of these configuration settings. All right, so next up, any thoughts, questions on any of this?
Well, real quick, while
Yep.
we're on this, I just want to let everybody know I'm uploading that sample HR report. I guess you would call that a report, not a dashboard, right? That Dan is sharing in the Power BI service. I uploaded the source. It's a sample that's available out there from Microsoft. If I'm correct, Dan, is that?
Yep.
That's a sample. But yeah, so to save you hunting for it on the Microsoft site, I'm uploading it, and there's a procurement sample. There's about 4 or 5 of them that Microsoft puts out there. So you can click through in those and look at the Power Query editor. You can see the actual data tables that the report is using, and then if you look on the the data model, you can see how the data relates, and then there are different types of graphs, so you can just get some ideas for Power BI for your playing around pleasure, and then you can publish those to your own workspace and see what it looks like when it's in interactive mode. So anyway, that's published to the classroom, guys. Thanks, Dan.
Sure. And just a note, if you're going to work in that space, you may want to set up your Power BI accounts outside of the user base, because those users' licensing will expire at the end of this week, and then whatever work you've got going on will be inaccessible. So you should be able to go in and at least trial that this service with your, I think it has to be a work account or a school account. Otherwise, of course, if your organizations enable this, you can leverage that as well too. What I wanted to review here really quick before the Python component are the data sets, and just taking a look at what that experience looks like versus the Power BI experience. So I'm going to we're going to use the HR sample. I think it has more information. So I'm going to click on that, and it takes you to this window. And you can create your own reports based off of that data set. So consider, let's say HR has a long list of user databases, and they want to be able to provide that to different departments or organizations for whatever reason. So perhaps performance or something like that. They can create their own visualizations from a shared data set. And clicking on that specific data set, sorry, it takes you to that report, but I want to, sorry, these are the reports associated with that data, but if I wanted to take a look at that data, I can click on Show Tables. And here are all the tables associated. And this is just a quick snippet view. If I click on Analyze Excel, yeah, this is kind of the same issue. Let's see if this works. There we go. So enabling content, and then I can start to create pivot tables from the data that's been downloaded. So it's kind of a sort of a similar version of Power BI Desktop in terms of you can start to create these tables based off of the information you select, and then kind of manipulating the data from this perspective. We're not really going to go into pivot tables here, but essentially you can download and use the information that way. I'm going to go back to this.
So Dan, that's pulling the raw table data out of the project or out of the report and exporting it to Excel.
Correct. Yeah, and it's making a local copy, so it's
Yeah.
not necessarily.
So when you goof with it
synced
in
up.
Excel, it doesn't. Yeah. Once you start messing with it in Excel, it's your own copy. But were they? I'm a little confused as to what you were looking at there in Excel. Did you close that out, or do you still have that?
Oh yeah.
What was that?
So
Because they're not tabs, you know what I mean? They're not tabs of data.
yeah, there's a feature in Excel called well, essentially the pivot table feature,
Yeah.
and it starts to create. It starts there for you, as opposed to just outputting the data completely onto this page.
But it's like it's holding that stuff in memory or something, or as you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Um,
okay. It's an external connection. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
We never got
Yeah.
that
So
far. Yeah.
this
We've
no
done
worries.
we've done pivot tables, but that was magic. But it's an external connection, not a raw export of each data table in Power Query Editor kind of thing.
Exactly. So when you do save this file, the pivot table is saved. The data is still connected up to Power BI.
Interesting. So much to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of features, a lot of embedded features. I'd say it probably used Excel as its starting point. Wanted to see. All right, so in terms of that kind of similar ERD visual. You can see that here. You can analyze the specific components. It doesn't, see if it gives me, oh, I'm sorry. This visualization is the reports and how they're connected to each other. So if you had multiple trees and navigation elements, it starts to do that for you. It also shows this is the report, but this is the data. Yeah, and then this is a dashboard, so where this report is tied into a specific dashboard. So you can have multiple reports connected to a dashboard for web viewing.
So the dashboard is the report posted to the service? Is that? I'm still,
Correct.
I'm a little, so, okay, so,
Yeah, so there's two components here. So for visualization, but so here's your data set. And here's the report that you created. So pages, reports. And then if I go to, if I try to back up here, or not. All right, and then I can create a dashboard. And that dashboard is just a little bit more of a web interactive version of this. If I click on those components, I believe, yeah, if I click on the specific visual, at least in this experience, it takes me directly to the report. If you recall, we can add buttons there to kind of navigate through a different area or kind of drill down into specific areas. Additionally, this is, if you recall, I've got new hires here on this report, on the first report, and then if I click on bad hires, it should take me to that specific report. So it only extracts, or I shouldn't say extracts, but you create a visual on the dashboard that pulls from the same data set. I believe you can copy what you've created in a specific report, but when you click on these visuals, it will take you to those reports directly to kind of engage a little bit further into or deep dive into your reporting. And this is essentially where you can start to embed these dashboards into a more web service. So if you have websites that you want to expose some of this data to, if you want to embed this into internal sites, this is where you start to leverage some of those features.
so, I'm sorry, Dan, for being a little slow, and I'm clicking while I'm listening. And when I started in desktop, and I had my Northwoods report, my PBIX, and I hit publish, and I published it to my workspace because that's where we were at this morning. When I go to my workspace, all I see is the data set, the orange icon, and the report icon. I don't see a dashboard icon. What did you do to create a dashboard in a workspace?
Yep, sorry. So this is so the HR sample stuff. So that came kind of packaged. But if you click on new in the workspace and you click on dashboard and you name it Northwoods.
Don keeps
dashboard.
asking stupid question.
No, that was a good
dashboard.
question. I apologize. I missed that part. So that creates this empty space for you. And you click on edit. And instead of visuals, I guess it's a, come on. Oops, sorry. Select all right, so you have a couple of options here. You can create information from, let's say, like a web coding component. You can tie this web content directly to your report. And this coding, sorry, one sec. Sorry, change something up on me. All right, so essentially where you want to start with is your reporting component. As you can see, it took like kind of a snippet of that report that I pinned to the dashboard. So to do that, if I go back to the reporting area, there it is. Okay. So if I go back to the reporting area and I click on my reports, it loads up my report, and you can choose this visual or the entire report to pin to your dashboard. So I want to pin this specific visual, and I created the Northwoods dashboard already. You have the option to pin it to different dashboards within the workspace, or you can create a new one from here.
Got it. So you can go and pick and choose tiles or graphs, tables, whatever, out of any number of different reports, right, to create the dashboard?
Correct. And then the
Oh,
effect
cool.
should be, so I'm going to pin it there. I'm going to refresh this. And there's the specific pinned item. And if I click on it, it should take me to my report.
Bingo bango. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. That clears that up. Thank you.
Sure thing. So now we're at break here. So we're going to work through Python next, but this is ultimately just the final steps of being able to create the reports, publish them, export them, and then kind of interact with them. That dashboard piece was that final step there. So
there you go.
Yeah,
okay.
the Python thing's a little bit extra. We'll work through that. I haven't necessarily set it up, but if anybody wants to join in on that, I'll be back in about 15 minutes and start working through that. Otherwise, I will get the instructions on doing some of this stuff uploaded to that the folder, and then I'll also add some additional links and resource material to kind of dig through as well.
Yeah, great. And I'll duplicate that up into the classroom, into the Canvas classroom. I've got multiple PBIX files loaded there, along with a 1,200 page Power BI tutorial from Microsoft.com, from published by Microsoft, that goes into gory detail on all of this stuff. But seeing it, live and in the abridged format, really opens up my eyes as to what all of these different terms are for Power BI. So that was a good session, Dan. So back at 30 past the hour.
Yep.
Back at half past, guys.
I put a link in the chat window to be able to download Python. Depending on the kind of computer you have, I have Windows. So in that link, if you click on downloads tab, there's a downloads for Windows. And
I'm not seeing that.
I'll share my screen.
No, I mean, in the chat, I see
Oh, sorry, that was
something
just for,
from you and something from Leela.
sorry, that was direct response to somebody.
Whoops.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
That should be listed there now.
Yeah, we've all got Python on the machine so the Jupyter Notebook will work. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay. So let's go through. Does everybody have the, it's a software library and I usually mispronounce it, Pandas?
Pandas, yeah.
Yep.
It's included with Anaconda.
Yep. And then what about the Matplot library?
Yep, that's standard library too.
Okay. All right, cool. Then we can go through and skip to the Power BI desktop. So I'm going to load mine up and share my screen. Feel free to follow along. And can you all see my Power BI desktop?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So one thing we want to do is to enable our Python scripting option. It may have done that by default, but in case it didn't, you'll want to go to File, and then Options and Settings, and then Options. And that should pop up a window. Can you all see the menu or the options screen pop up?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and then there should be a section here for Python scripting. And then if you need to change any of the locations, but usually you can just keep the default. So this is Python 3.1. It might be an outdated version, but I'm going to keep it as is for now and see how my experience goes. Click OK. And then we want to get to the scripting piece. So I have, I'm just pulling up my script and I'm going to share it in the chat window. And this one should be a, it's kind of a default sample from Microsoft directly. So if it's broken, I didn't do it. Microsoft did. All right, so then what we want to do is go to.
So we're going to copy that code out of the chat window.
Mm-hmm.
Copy.
And then we're going to, we should be able to insert that into, come on, a Python. It'd be easier if I just do this. Python script. So sorry, to get there, go to get data, get more data, and then type in Python script and click connect. And this window should pop up. And then I'm going to paste that into here and click OK. And this is where the troubleshooting begins. What we should be returning is a table for Alex, Bob, Clark, and their ages, it looks like. And then is anybody successful in doing that?
No, I think I got the
Still
same
trying to-
error.
I'm still working through the get data piece.
Missing
I had-
dependencies, blah, 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 blah.
I had more the first time I tried it. Now I don't have it. But under, okay, there it is. I got Python script. Got it.
ADO.net.
Unable to connect.
Yeah, Python script error, trace back most recent event, last call, blah, 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 import man file. Missing required dependencies,
It looks
0
good.
in bracket dot format. Is that what you got?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
might need to run the
NumPys. It's missing required dependency of NumPy. So how about we can cancel out of that and go back to, where to go? Cancel.
might need to open up a command prompt and do the
NumPy is also,
install of pandas in the plot library. Sorry, I just added 2 commands there for pandas. I don't know if you need to update it or not, but I'm going to run through my console to do that. And I apologize, my wife is calling me. I'm just going to take just a minute here, and I'll jump right back on.
Hey, Don,
yes.
what is pandas?
Pandas is a, yeah, this isn't working. I don't know. Pandas is a library of functionality that has a lot of functions and methods, tools in it, commands that let you read in like a CSV file and it turns it into like a spreadsheet in your Python program instead of having like a just like a string variable that's a name or a number variable that's just the number 12. It creates a variable that is a spreadsheet. So you have column names and you have rows of data, and you can do statistics on each column, and you can go through and filter rows based on different values, and you do it all it's all in Python code, but there's kind of easy one line commands to do things like that. So it's a library written on top of other Python libraries that lets you work with tabular data real easily. And we're getting into that first thing Tuesday morning, what pandas is and what a data frame is and what's the big deal, because we haven't really done any data analysis in Python. We've just learned coding, scripting, which it's kind of a crawl, walk, run sort of thing.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Sure. Yeah, this won't behave for me either. And when I say under visualizations, there's a Python visualization thing, but I'm trying to think of what it told me. Delete. Now it won't let me delete the Python visualization. That won't work because I don't have whatever.
Sorry about that. I'm back. Is anybody able to make any progress on that?
No, I included import NumPy. That didn't seem to do any good. It said missing dependency NumPy on there. Oh, yeah, everybody has, if you go to your Anaconda environment, everybody's got pandas and matplotlib installed. It's just having trouble finding it, I guess. Maybe there's a path variable or something that we need to have, Dan, that we don't.
Yeah, so if we go back to, I'm just trying to get my modules updated, but if you go back to the file, options and settings, and then options, and then Python scripting. So this detected my directory. So I'm going to leave it there because that's usually where I install that. Obviously, if it needs to be different for you, if you could just double check that, your home directory for Python.
Yeah, like guys, I'm seeing after doing just the default installation of Anaconda, for me it says, C users, Don W1 is my user, Anaconda 3 is the directory that it's showing for me. Is that what you guys get in the detected Python
is,
home
yeah.
directories? Yeah, so something I doesn't like about that.
I'm going to finish installing this module, and then I'm going to check settings on my custom visuals automatically install additional packages.
Anaconda 3, there it is.
Are there any, if you right click on properties, is there, I'm assuming you have a Windows.
Yeah, I'm on Windows.
Okay.
It's
If you
the-
click on properties of the folder, is there an unblock option?
On the properties of my Anaconda 3 folder, properties, it says read only, unblock. Is there like a sharing?
It would just be unblock, but
No,
that's
I don't
okay.
see
That
it. But the Python application is where Power BI is looking for it to be. It's just, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's not finding the libraries where they ought to be. And I'm not, I'm not a Python developer, so I'm not real great on managing the environment, with a lot of confidence. I just, I installed it. Jupyter Notebooks works, so we're able to learn Python using Jupyter Notebook. But as far as where the actual, like, where is pandas on my hard drive or whatever, I don't really know how that environment is linked or works. You know what I mean? I just know it works in Jupyter Notebook, which is one of the things that happens when, or that comes with Anaconda.
gotcha. Yeah, I don't have too much experience with that piece directly, but let's see if I can at least get this going to showcase it, and then we can troubleshoot a little bit further.
I'm just curious if I just do something even simpler. Got it. Okay, so, and I clicked on the the Python visual under the default visualizations, and now I can't get the thing to go away. Dan, it's a big gray
Oh.
block. Drag
Do
values, drag
do you
fields
see-
into the values area in the visualization pane to start scripting.
Do you
Oh.
happen to see the 3 dots on your visual?
Yeah. No, it's just I got a down arrow, a up, a maximize, a settings gear, and then what looks like a play button, but there's no, and I can't get the stupid thing. Oh, I think I fixed it.
Gotcha.
I clicked away from it. That's all I needed to do.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm going to try that again. I'm going to go to get data. I'm sorry. Let me mute my mic and stop talking
Or
out loud.
anybody else have any luck? It looks like I was able to move forward, and I can walk you through what I did and see if it helps. Anybody else have any success with it? Or maybe not?
It wouldn't even let
Nothing
me
yet so
print.
far.
It wouldn't even let me print hello. End of line while scanning string literal. So anyway, yeah, I'm no help.
All right, let me get to this piece. Well, actually, before I do that, so I opened up my command prompt as administrator, and I ran those 2. I know that you've probably already got this installed, but I did run those 2 libraries. And in the chat window, I put in 2 pip commands. So install pandas and install matplot. If you run those 2, once that's done, I don't think you necessarily have to close out of the Power BI desktop, but if you try to run those scripts again, see if you get the same error. While you're doing that, I'm just going to move forward with importing this table. Simple name, age, and I'm going to load it.
Oh, okay. It just connected. So Dan, are you using the data from the data frame in one of the default visualizations instead of in a Python visualization?
No, what happened was I went through get data and I imported or just copy and pasted that script. And then what it did was it created a table from the script, and then I imported that into my my desktop session.
And I was looking at Power BI when you were talking. What did you put in the script to get rid of the can't connect error?
Oh, sorry. If you go to the command prompt, and I'll just paste it one more time in the chat window.
The pip install pandas and pip install matplotlib. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you do that at?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because you were sharing Power BI the whole time. So if you thought people could see what you did with that, I don't think we did, unless I
Sure.
was.
So I hit the Windows key, or if you have a
Yeah.
shortcut to it, command prompt, and then
Just the normal command prompt.
yep, running as admin, and then I just typed in pip install panda. So I did one at a time.
If pip is not recognized as an internal or external command. If I CD to Anaconda 3, is it going to be in there? Pip is not recognized as an internal or external command. I'm used to running pip not from
Might have to do it in the Jupyter.
in the
environment,
Jupyter, I'm
because
used
that's
to,
where Python lives on our computer, so it's probably where you'll have to do it.
yeah, it's called the PowerShell Anaconda PowerShell prompt, and that's where. But I'm telling you, Pandas is already installed if we did it that way, Paul. So I don't know what that would change.
Okay, well then I probably just have to do the matplotlib install.
I don't know. I'd have to do some.
Did you try both commands?
No, it doesn't recognize pip as a command.
Oh,
No.
I gotcha.
But if I go into, I know it will if I go into the Anaconda PowerShell, because I've installed a lot of libraries doing that. The Anaconda prompt.
Right, it's probably because you don't have Python set up as an environment in your Windows, if that makes sense.
It does, but it understands pip in the Anaconda prompt.
Right, that's because Python lives there, and Python doesn't live on in your Windows
Gotcha. Yeah.
hierarchy. So it needs Python in order to recognize pip.
So you got to go out and do a reinstallation of just Python, not, yeah, like I said, guys, this is not something I'm I'm really prepared to support. So I need to hush up.
No worries. So if you don't have a lot going on with Python on your local machine and you think it might help, downloading an updated version. So if you have 3, I think I have 3.1 version, and just updating it essentially to that and seeing if at least that kind of refreshes things, and then that downloads Python just specifically, and then possibly being able to run that command, or both of those pip commands.
Yeah, there's info on the web out there. It's just something I got to look into.
Kind of having,
There you go. Yeah, no, to do it, there's a good tutorial on it. I'll check it out and cover it later in class. I don't want to. It would slow you down dramatically, Dan.
oh, that's okay. I do have a document that just kind of goes through the steps that I went through, and some links to run. Actually, I don't think I'm really finding the kind of visual that I want, just because I only have 2 tables here. But so what I've got going on again is I ran that script, and once it loaded, it basically built a table for me to import. And now it's listed here, and it's likely just its own kind of isolated in its own table, so nothing's connected to it. But if I go back here, I should see it listed here to be able to, just as what we've been doing is selecting a visual and then inputting the data here. What I think I might, the reason I'm kind of running into like finding the right visual for this is because it's really only two data sets, or I'm sorry, 2 columns. If I had perhaps, well, I guess I can, yeah, since these aren't connected, they're going to fail. So that, I'll leave it at that for now. The other option is there's a Python visual. This is where I am completely lost, but I will click into it. And essentially what it gives me is it starts to build some of the scripting, or at least ties the data set here. And then I guess what I'll try is copy and pasting this script again and see what comes up.
Do you got to hit that run button to get the script to activate now? You got a little run button next to above your visualization on the far right side. Is that how you get that
Oh, there it is.
script?
Sorry.
Yeah, that little thing. Is that how you get it to do something? Can't.
Yeah, it looks like it's trying to execute. Oh, I see. It didn't take that first line.
Yeah.
This might be, you can create kind of custom Python visuals as opposed to what I copy and pasted here was just a table, if that makes sense.
It might be, yeah, it might be where you can use some of those, because Python has libraries to draw every graph you've ever heard of. So it might be that you do it that way. But I'm just trying to think of how you'd link, how the scripting. I'd have to play with it to see how the interactive WYSIWYG of Power BI drops, data frame column names in where they belong in a Python command. Dan, while you're on here, just to satisfy my morbid curiosity, would you change line 10 in the script to just df.head? And then No, the whole,
No.
get rid of the print, get rid of everything. The line of code would be df.head. And then I believe you need open paren, close paren. I think
No.
then no parameters, No, after head, like it's a
Oh, gotcha,
method, you know what I
gotcha.
mean? I think that's the appropriate, and that would at least show a table. No, that's because that's the command to look at the first 5 lines or whatever of a data frame. I don't know.
Yeah, I can imagine there's probably a couple of examples of scripts here specifically for this visualization. What if I just do that? Yeah, I can try to see if I can find something to showcase that piece, but anybody have any luck importing from that script? No, obviously it's, I don't want you to mess with your machine too much if you have to reload things.
I was gonna say we've got Anaconda. I think, and I'm gonna go through this page. Let me get back to the Zoom session. I think this tutorial shows you how to do it. It's like you run Power BI from the Anaconda prompt instead of double clicking it, and then, you know what I mean, to get Python to recognize Power BI or feed into Power BI. Anyway, like I said, I barely looked at it, but I'm gonna check that out because I'm afraid of goofing around with my Python environment because it works. And like I said, I'm not a good, a real IT team, software development team would have someone who is an environment expert that knows what components go where and what your machine has to have on it in order for all of these tools to work correctly. And I'm not that guy. I know a little bit about how to manage a Python environment on a Windows PC, but I'm afraid of breaking it.
Yeah, and unless it's like heavy development shops or organizations, yeah, it's typically left to the person that wants to leverage that.
I'll bet Jeremy knows a little how to do it. What do you think, CAE people?
Most likely.
Jeremy knows all.
Jeremy knows everything. He's my hero. Sorry, Dan, inside joke. He's
No worries.
he's the data engineer for over half the class here, the guys that work at CAE. He's a
Gotcha.
pretty well-versed guy. Anyway, back to you, Dan.
Yeah. Well, that was the last piece that I kind of wanted to go over. It's if there's anything else that you want me to kind of revisit, otherwise, like I said, that's all I have. I have some documents I'm going to upload after this. Yeah, any questions, anything I can help with, certainly let me know. Otherwise, thank you all so much for your time. I know that it kind of might seem like it's going over your head because firstly, I understand that my voice is very monotone. My wife likes to point that out a lot. But there's certainly a lot to this as well. So hopefully just some pointers and just some guiding principles here. Some of it's going to be very dynamic in terms of you do know that you need to create a report. You do know where, what kind of data you're looking for. But essentially it's going to depend on the information you're trying to share that you've got some space here to work through. I'm sure that there are a lot of just in general analytical or reporting type governance models or guiding principle models that say you should be using this type of visualization over another. But yeah, again, thank you all so much for your time, and hopefully you picked up something from it. But again, I'll be here for another 30-ish minutes if you have any questions.
Dan, how long is that login that you gave us going to be good at your account, right?
Yeah, just to the end of the week. So
End of the week. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's probably at midnight on Friday. So you've got the rest of the day, today, tomorrow.
I think we've all probably got a Microsoft account. And if you have through, like your own 365 subscription or through work, you've got at least access to your personal workspace so that you can go through all the motions. You just won't necessarily you won't be able to share them with an outside audience, but you'll be able to see all the functionality, and you could certainly share your screen if you wanted to use Power BI to demonstrate anything. But okay, I'm going to stop record so that if somebody has a question, no one will ever know. And then I'm going to jump. So Dan, thanks for coming in. Pleasure working with you. I learned a lot. Now I'm going to play most of the newness, other than, clumsiness with visuals, is this Power BI service. So, and dashboarding. So I want to mess around with like what you were showing of pinning different tiles from a report into a dashboard and how that looks and operates in the service.
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, guys. All right, I'm out. If y'all need me, you got my cell number and email. Otherwise, like I said, Dan's gonna stick around till what, 1/2 hour?
Yep.
Okay. I'll be back to kill the recording and post it and all that.